Thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm Alexis Hicks, Director of Advocacy and Policy at the Mississippi Early Learning Alliance. We're excited to present our latest report, which sheds light on a critical issue, the connection between childcare and Mississippi's labor force participation. MELA believes that if we can change the first 5 years for Mississippi's children, we can change the trajectory for the rest of their lives. That is why we exist to build, strengthen, and support coalitions to advocate for systems change to improve early learning and child development outcomes in Mississippi. MELA provides backbone support for the Forum for the Future coalition, which includes over 80 individuals and organizations working together to educate and advocate for policies and communities that support all babies, toddlers, and families. This looks like supporting the creation of a Mississippi Prenatal to 5 Common Policy and Advocacy agenda, hosting gatherings where collaborative solutions and policies are designed, publishing qualitative and quantitative reports about challenges and opportunities for babies and toddlers, and many other things. Today, we will share a report developed addressing not only a pressing need for babies, but also for Mississippi's entire economy. As many of you know, childcare is not just a necessity for families, but it's a key component for our state's economic health. Today, we will delve into national and state level research that highlights the current landscapes of childcare in Mississippi and its influence on labor force participation rates. We will provide insights into the challenges we face and the potential solutions that can help bridge the gap between childcare needs and workforce opportunities. MELA's Executive Director, Biz Harris, will share the findings of this report. Her insights will help us better understand the intersection of childcare and workforce participation and guide our efforts towards effective solutions. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Biz Harris, who will provide an overview of the report's findings and the implications for our state. Thank you again so much for being here, and we look forward to a productive discussion. Biz, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Alexis. Hi, everybody. I'm Biz Harris. Thanks for joining us. We hope you're staying safe in this scary, hurricane season. So we're here today because we believe that when Mississippi's babies have what they need to thrive, that Mississippi as a whole thrives. And when Mississippi's economy thrives, then so do our babies. So today we want to talk about an issue that has huge implications for both. There's been a lot of good news for our economy with industries choosing to locate in Mississippi, but there's also been a lot of buzz and discussion about Mississippi's incredibly low labor force participation rate, since without workers, our new industries will face challenges in staffing. We at MELA had heard that Mississippi parents of young children were struggling to find or afford childcare, and as such, were choosing not to go to work or were reducing their work hours. So with these things in mind, we wanted to explore existing data to learn if this was in fact the case. And if it was, then we wanted to explore the struggles the childcare market was facing, from supply issues to cost problems and consumer price challenges, since some economists have said that childcare is in a market failure. This report was created to share those findings, and we hope that by helping others understand the market forces at play, that Mississippi leaders can then take the most effective actions to address those market challenges, which then in return can help caregiving parents in Mississippi join the labor force and get to work. Before we discuss the challenges with childcare, first, we need to understand Mississippi parents' labor force participation and determine if caregiving responsibilities impact their choice to work or not. This graph captures data on parents who are not working or are working only part-time and highlights parents who are choosing not to work specifically because of family responsibilities. We see that in 2020, when childcare and schools were closed because of COVID-19, there was a significant increase in unemployed or underemployed parents who reported not working due to family responsibilities. So in the past, when Mississippi parents had less access to childcare for their children, they did choose to leave the labor force. So what about women versus men? Fewer women do seem to be working than men. And given that women, regardless of their working status, are more likely to have caregiving responsibilities for children than nearly all men, regardless of work status, then childcare may be a barrier to their full labor force participation. The second graph at the bottom of the page shows that when you look specifically at mothers by the age of their children, then mothers with babies, toddlers, or preschoolers, so birth to age 4, are less likely to work than mothers with school-age children by about 20%. This isn't surprising since children over 4 have readily available school choices. And as we'll see, there aren't enough childcare options for young children. We just saw that mothers of young children are choosing not to work. Without access to affordable childcare, they'll likely remain out of the workforce until their child enters school. Another population of parents who may struggle to work because of caregiving responsibilities are parents who work non-traditional shift hours. And Mississippi has a higher rate of night shift workers than most other states. Nearly 20% of low-income working parents with children under age 6 work non-standard hours. That's a lot of low-income parents who have to find some sort of non-traditional care arrangement for their children. Without adequate childcare for non-standard hours, parents in these roles will continue to find it challenging to remain in these jobs, and others who would be offered these jobs may not take them. We see then that unlike many other services, childcare is a necessity for working families rather than a luxury. So, what does it mean for our economy? More people in the labor force means more money for Mississippi. Based on some calculations by Mississippi State economist Corey Miller, a 1% increase in people working means $1.2 billion for Mississippi's gross domestic product. A 7% increase in people working means $8 billion. Mississippi's unemployed or underemployed parents who are not working due to family responsibilities make up 7% of the total Mississippi labor force. So, if just a portion of these parents enter the labor force, Mississippi stands to gain billions. We've seen that if we address childcare for working families, specifically parents with children under age 4 and parents who work non-traditional shifts, then Mississippi stands to gain. But what are the challenges associated with childcare? The first challenge is, of course, a question of supply and demand. Is there enough childcare available for the children who need it? The answer is no. These maps highlight that Mississippi has enough childcare available for only 2/3 of children under age 6. So there is a childcare supply issue. Even if a county does have enough childcare slots for children under age 6, not all centers offer infant or toddler care or care outside of the standard workday. This means that even if a county does have availability for a child, it may not have the availability for all of the children who actually need care. And this choice impacts parents' own choices to enter or remain in the labor force or not. In economics, supply and demand explain how the price of something is related to how much people want to buy or sell. When the amount people want to buy matches the amount available, everything is balanced. Data we examined highlights that this is not happening in the childcare market. Normally, providing more childcare slots or increasing prices would balance things out in a system. But economists have deemed childcare as being a market failure or a broken market, meaning that the market hasn't been able to correct itself. Why? Well, most childcare options in Mississippi are small businesses. While there are other options, most children are served in center-based care. These centers usually set up in areas where families have enough money to pay for care every week. Whether the centers are trying to make a profit or just trying to cover their costs, they rely on the money parents pay to keep running. According to the Mississippi Department of Human Services, child care center programs in non-metro areas are charging a mean rate of $516 per month for full-time infant care and a mean rate of $496 per month for full-time toddler care. And this is recent data from this summer. These numbers, however, don't fully capture the cost of providing care. A recent memo created for the Department of Human Services calculated estimates of what amount of funds are actually necessary to fully cover childcare providers' expenses. The report estimated costs of nearly $1,000 more per month for every age group than what childcare providers report currently charging families. So there's a gap in what childcare businesses are charging and what it costs to provide care. But why? Many might believe, and we have heard people say, that maybe for-profit childcare businesses are driving prices up in order to make a higher profit. But this is not the case. The answer lies in the amount of staffing that childcare needs. Babies and toddlers need the attention of focused and nurturing staff, and this requires low staff-to-child ratios. 1 adult for every 5 infants in Mississippi and 1 adult for every 9 toddlers. This ratio ensures that each child receives adequate attention and care, but also means that child care directors have to recruit and retain staff in order to keep their classrooms full. Here, this chart represents an estimate of what payroll typically uses or takes from the budget of a hypothetical childcare center. You'll see that payroll and payroll taxes make up the most significant portion of their expenses. But even so, the pay is very low for childcare teachers. With limited additional funding beyond parent fees for childcare, costs are balanced by increasing fees and underpaying staff. Here we compare what childcare teachers make on average in Mississippi with other jobs in a similar pay bracket, which in this case are dishwashers and cashiers, and also with other roles that have similar job responsibilities, like preschool teachers. When comparing a childcare teacher's annual average pay, 47% of whom reported caring for children with special needs in a 2023 survey, to a preschool teacher who teaches children with special needs, the difference in annual salary is $27,800. So, if staff are underpaid, why can't the childcare owners just increase pay to their teachers like other businesses do? Let's look at a hypothetical budget that was reviewed by several childcare providers. As we saw previously, childcare programs have high staffing needs. In addition to teachers, they're required to have a director and often need some part-time support staff. At the current market rate, relying solely on child tuition, here's a sample of a small 4-classroom childcare provider's annual budget. Childcare providers also have other typical business expenses like internet and accounting fees and insurance. They have significant per-pupil necessary supply expenses too, like food or medical supplies and cleaning materials. Given the very substantial disparity between income and necessary expenses, which you see here circled in yellow, it's evident that this hypothetical center will not be able to continue operating or will have to make difficult financial choices. In many cases, in order to make ends meet, center owners choose to function as the center director, the floating teacher, the custodian, and the food service worker to save payroll expenses. In other cases, a center may choose to expand classrooms where they make the most profit by serving only older children. And in other cases, in order to mitigate the loss of revenue, childcare owners may choose to close infant and toddler classrooms altogether, leaving parents of babies with fewer care options. As it stands, childcare providers and their teachers work diligently to provide safe, caring educational environments for Mississippi children on shoestring budgets. It's difficult to imagine any other businesses continuing to operate with such tight profit margins. But we need them. If teachers need to be paid more and childcare owners are struggling to stay afloat, then should they just increase prices, passing on those costs to the consumer? Unfortunately, the standard price of businesses is not available to childcare programs. Let's say a family of 4 in Mississippi has 2 children in childcare, 1 infant and 1 toddler, and the family makes about 60% of the median household income in Mississippi, which is about $45,000. Childcare costs, using our current market rates, exceed 26% of their income for 2 children. The average rent for a family of 4, shown here in green, is about $5,532 a year, and that comes in at only 7% of a family of 4's budget. So in this case, childcare is more expensive than rent, and that's actually standard. At this price, it's likely that many parents are making difficult choices to stay home to care for children rather than join the workforce and be able to provide for their family. If childcare programs were to raise prices to cover their costs, they'd price out even more parents from care, and Mississippi's workforce shortage would likely get much worse. Most Mississippians believe that letting businesses compete and make their own decisions is the best way to handle economic problems. We trust that this approach will lead to more of the products and services people want and motivate people to work hard and learn important skills. However, right now, the market isn't doing a great job of providing enough childcare for working families. And when the market doesn't work, sometimes interventions, or when a government gives the market a bit of a push or guidance to make sure things work better for everyone, are needed. Mississippi is actually already using some market interventions when it comes to childcare. This isn't new, but unfortunately, the ones we're using aren't impacting the market enough. Though Mississippi's economy reaps the benefits of childcare market interventions, the funding for them comes almost exclusively from federal streams. While these funding streams bolster the childcare sector, most federal funding beyond the Child Care and Development Block Grant is time-bound or temporary. Without stable or consistent supplementary investment in these interventions, the many small business owners operating this critical piece of community infrastructure will continue to struggle to keep their doors open, which in turn will create workforce challenges for employers who need staff downstream. These charts compare state funding for early childhood education and care programs for all Southern states. Mississippi, as you'll see here, spends less than West Virginia, Alabama, and Arkansas per child and overall. And those three states are also in the bottom 5% of states' gross domestic product. Mississippi currently spends about $600 per child in these programs and serves about 20% of children under age 5, compared to West Virginia, which serves about $2,500 per child and serves 36% of children under age 5, and Arkansas, which spends about $3,000 per child and also serves 26% of children under age 5. Sometimes government investment in a system only saves money. But when it comes to making childcare easier to get, the money spent can actually help the state earn more. This is because when more people use childcare, more people can go to work, increasing Mississippi's gross domestic product. While childcare leaders, organizations, and agencies have been working diligently to develop possible solutions to these challenges, this report isn't the place to share those solutions. This report was created to simply and clearly explain the struggles that the market is facing in light of Mississippi's parents' labor force participation rate. When a critical piece of economic infrastructure is in danger on so many fronts, sometimes interventions are necessary. How does Mississippi move forward? We think first, we need Mississippi leaders to view childcare as a critical piece of economic infrastructure. From this vantage point, Mississippi can create a blueprint with long-term interventions to address the price, cost, and supply of care, as well as address the root causes that are impacting the childcare business model. By collaboratively developing interventions, Mississippi can lay the foundation for a childcare system that works for everybody. This will enable parents to go to work and provide for their families, and also will help employers boost Mississippi's economy as a whole. While our coalition will continue to work to address the childcare market struggles overall so that the system works for all families and employers, we also recommend taking short-term action. Our report appendix shares some other ways that states have done that and addressed these issues. So those are the basic findings of our report. Before we take questions, I want to take a moment to thank and extend a sincere thank you to all of the amazing researchers whose work we leveraged to make this report, including but not limited to the Systems Change Lab of the Social Sciences Research Center at Mississippi State, the Mississippi Forum for the Future of Child Care Wages Working Group, the Children's Foundation of Mississippi, the Mississippi Department of Human Services, and the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. We also appreciate our partners who reviewed this report and helped us clarify or correct points. It received valuable feedback from members of the Forum for the Future True Cost of Care Working Group, as well as Dr. Heather Hanna, Dr. Kathy Grace, Dr. Jeff Leffler-Interkin, and Mr. Matt Williams. Thank you all for joining us today.